Alright, time for a change in scenery, guys. I am on vacation this week in the great northern woods of Wisconsin with my family and thought, why not shoot a video? How's it going, everybody? I'm Ryan, and this is Minus the Gym, where we talk about how to be fit and healthy at home. And it's been a while since I made a video about intermittent fasting. And the last video I made about that, I received an interesting comment that I want to mention here on the channel. The viewer basically said that she was really happy to have found my channel because I was a YouTuber talking about intermittent fasting and not pushing the keto diet. And she mentioned that carbohydrates are really healthy for us and shouldn't be omitted from the diet. So she was really happy to have found my channel. And I thought, that's worthy of an entire video in itself, because I've noticed the same thing. A lot of people out there talking about intermittent fasting on YouTube are pushing the ketogenic diet. And I get it, I see the relation, but I also think it's sort of overkill. And I want to talk about that in this video. So basically, the ketogenic diet is a high-fat, low-carbohydrate diet. A lot of people eat that way. A lot of people on my channel actually have commented and are eating that way. And I totally get it. I think it's a great concept. It's basically a dietary hack where you're restricting carbohydrates a lot, trying to basically eliminate carbohydrate from your diet. And what that does is it means that you're going to produce very little glycogen in your body. And glycogen is your first preferred source of energy. Once you deplete your glycogen, then your body is going to resort to body fat for energy, and then the last resort is protein, all right, meaning the amino acids that make up your body. So by eating the keto diet, you're going to limit the amount of glycogen, which means that you're going to be resorting to body fat for energy a lot more often. And this is a state called ketosis, right? You're breaking down fat, and part of that process produces ketones, which are these acid molecules that will build up in your tissues. So essentially what the ketogenic diet does is it mimics fasting. Because fasting, whether you do intermittent fasting or you do multiple day fasting, what fasting's doing is it's allowing you to deplete your glycogen. Remember, you use up your glycogen stores first, and then once your glycogen is depleted, you're going to resort to body fat. So the ketogenic diet is essentially mimicking fasting. All right, I just shifted the camera a little bit so maybe you can see my face better. I realized that the angle of the sun wasn't too good. So the question really becomes, if you're eating the ketogenic diet already, which mimics fasting and is putting you in a state of ketosis a lot, do you really need to do intermittent fasting? Do you have to use time-restricted eating to get into a state of ketosis? And the answer is really no. I mean, the entire purpose to restricting carbohydrate is that you produce less glycogen, right? That's why they call it the ketogenic diet. Less glycogen means you'll be going into a state of ketosis quite often. So with that said, why combine both? Now, I'm not trying to discourage anyone who's eating the keto diet and doing intermittent fasting as well, but in this video, I want to talk about why I personally include carbohydrate in my diet all the time, even when I'm fasting, and we can talk about the benefits of carbohydrate. Okay, so one of the main reasons why I like to include carbohydrate in my diet, even when I'm doing intermittent fasting, is because I enjoy carbs. A lot of the foods I like are including carbohydrate. And when I refer to carbohydrate, I mean the healthy, starchy carbs. I'm not talking about white bread and white pasta and things like that. I'm talking about starchy, complex carbs like sweet potatoes, any kind of tubers, legumes, lentils, whole grains, and even fructose, a lot of fruit. I love fruit. So I enjoy those foods, and it's really important that you enjoy the diet that you're eating. So for me personally, since I love a lot of carbohydrates, I'm going to include them in my diet. But another reason why I always like to include carbohydrates is because they are good for you. All right, one of the things, and I'll put a link to all the studies I'm referring to down below, is that they've found that carbohydrate consumption is linked to a lot of hormone production, one of which is testosterone, which I know is really important to men especially. But carbohydrate also helps control cortisol production. Cortisol is a stress hormone, and we don't want too much of that. We don't want too much cortisol because it's not good to have a lot of stress. All right, you want to have a balance to the stress hormones that you're creating. You know, things like the circadian rhythm, like your sleep and wake cycle, those rely heavily on your cortisol production. So if you're eating a low carbohydrate diet, if you try that and find that you're having trouble sleeping, for instance, that could be related to the lack of carbohydrate causing your cortisol levels to be more elevated than they should be. Now, another topic worth mentioning is something called ketoacidosis. And you don't hear people pushing the keto diet talking about this too much, although I have heard them mention it. It's because it's not very common, but it can happen. All right, there's a state where when you're in ketosis, you're burning fat and you're producing ketones, which are acids, building up in your tissues. They can start to build up too high. There's too high of a concentration of ketones in your body, and this can make your blood acidic, right? And they can measure this. The doctors, when you go to the doctor's office, they can take a blood sample and check. And if that concentration of ketones is too high, they call the condition ketoacidosis, and it can make you pretty sick. And there was actually a case study, I just Googled it on Google Scholar, and the first hit was a case study of a woman. Now, she was breastfeeding. She had just had a child. I think her kid was 10 months old, if I remember, but I could be wrong. She was eating the ketogenic diet, and she was admitted for vomiting and diarrhea to the hospital. They took a blood sample and found that the concentrations of ketones in her body were too high and were comparable to a state of ketoacidosis. All right, so that's something you have to keep in mind as well. If you're combining intermittent fasting or time-restricted eating with the ketogenic diet, you're going to be in a state of ketosis quite a lot. Again, I'm not a doctor, I'm just a personal trainer, but when I heard about that and when I saw that case study, I thought, you know, that's just one extra reason why I like to eat carbohydrates. I'm not saying that this is going to happen if you eat the ketogenic diet or if you combine it with intermittent fasting. I'm just saying it is a risk, and it seems to have been, in some cases, correlated to eating the keto diet. All right, so it's also why when doctors prescribe the ketogenic diet for people with epilepsy and other things, you know, Parkinson's, that they want to closely monitor their patient while they're eating the diet because it can lead to this state. So that's just something to keep in mind. Again, like I always mention in all of my videos, I am not saying this stuff to try to persuade people to eat a certain diet, okay? I know a lot of my viewers are eating the ketogenic diet and enjoy it. They're getting good results. And if you're in that boat, then keep doing it. If you're enjoying it, and you feel great, then yeah, keep eating that way. I'm only making this video for my viewers who don't want to eat keto, but they see all the other YouTubers out there talking about eating keto and doing intermittent fasting, and I just want them to know that it's not necessary, right? Intermittent fasting itself, even if you eat carbohydrates, will induce a state of ketosis, especially if you start off with 16-8, so 16 hours of fasting, 8 hours of eating, and you gradually increase that fasting time to, I'd say, a ratio of 20-4 seems to work best for me. I can really feel that in those last 2 to 4 hours, like hours 16 to 20 usually, I can just feel that I'm leaning out. I can feel that I'm resorting to body fat for energy. So if you're like me and you love carbs and you don't want to cut them out of your diet, you don't need to. All right, just do intermittent fasting or time-restricted eating, I believe is what they're calling it as well. It's a great way to get into a state of ketosis, even if you eat carbohydrate, and it's healthy. Like I mentioned, carbohydrate is really important for overall health, hormone production. Okay, one of the hormones I didn't mention earlier is leptin. All right, look up leptin. It's really important to help you sleep better and to feel relaxed and satiated. And I personally, when I tried the keto diet a long time ago, I didn't feel right. I didn't feel normal. I felt like I was kind of forcing it. And I really think it was because of the hormone production. It's possible I wasn't doing the diet correctly. You know, that's of course a possibility, but it just wasn't for me. And if it's not for you either, then I just want to make this quick video so you can rest assured that carbs aren't necessarily bad for you, and intermittent fasting is great, and you don't have to eat keto when you do intermittent fasting. Thanks for tuning in. If you're new to my channel, this is Minus the Gym, where I talk about healthy eating and body weight fitness. All right, so if that sounds good to you, make sure you subscribe. Button is down below. And I think I'm going to end this video with a little demonstration of how I grease the groove when I'm on vacation. All right, basically I just exercise whenever I see the opportunity. And I'll talk to you in the next video. All right, see you later.